What in the world is going on in Afghanistan? Update for you today. Joe Biden came out and did a press conference, so we're doing the second show for today. Go through some of the stuff we went over earlier, but also add in all of the new stuff that's coming out, that's going on in Afghanistan right now. Again, Joe Biden did a press conference. We clipped that up, got a lot of interesting stuff revolving around that, plus a lot more clips as videos and content come throughout the day. So we're back again. Thanks for joining us. What is going on in Afghanistan? Stay tuned. This is the Jobob Show, and it starts right about now.
3, 2, 1.
Here we go!
Live from a dingy bunker, completely cut off from the outside world, except for you fine folks. My name is Jobob. This is the Jobob Show. Second time we're here today. Not really expecting to, but a lot of things happened throughout the day that we want to bring everybody up to speed on. Joe Biden came and did a press conference regarding Afghanistan. Flew back from vacation just to do so. Lucky us. But we clipped that up, have a lot of clips to play for you from that, as well as a bunch of other stuff from yesterday, from this weekend. As you already know, Kabul has fallen to the Taliban, Kabul being the capital city of Afghanistan, completely overrun by the Taliban. They now have control of the entire country. That didn't take long at all. A lot of different angles being proposed. The Joe Biden administration has taken heat from all sides. They said a couple different interesting things during that press conference that he had. He didn't take any questions. But again, we got a lot of clips from that coming up. Really interesting what they decided to say. Pretty at odds with what the rest of us think. And I'm not talking about the rest of us, being on the right side of things. I'm talking about just everybody in general. Everybody is kind of opposed to what the Biden administration came out and said. But again, more on that in just a quick second. First, I got to tell you about capitalist propaganda. The best way to tell your friends that their socialist ideas totally suck. Now, speaking of capitalism, it would have been great if there was a little bit more free market capitalism in the Afghanistani state. That's why America's great. So go ahead and head over to capitalistpropaganda.us. Tell your friends their socialist ideas suck by heading over to Capitalist Propaganda. Get the gear that tells your friends their socialist ideas are totally dumb. This is the shirt I'm wearing today. Go ahead, use your iPhone to tweet about how much you hate me, because everything that is good comes from capitalism. You're welcome. Love capitalism. Capitalism rocks. Head over to Capitalist Propaganda to take part in the movement to help spread capitalist propaganda, because we have to now. Apparently, we have to. You thought that stuff was over in the 60s and 70s, but nope, we have to defend it against all of your craziness, which are the same people that are defending what's going on in Iraq, your AOCs and your Bernie crowds. So we really quick want to take you through a timeline. This is a timeline from Reuters. Before we do that, let's talk really quick. Just set the table. So, okay, here's what we're trying to do here. A lot of people are unaware with what's going on. A lot of us are news junkies, right? That are on these news platforms constantly. I know I am, and I'm getting hit with constant information. A lot of people I know aren't, my wife included. Not really much of an idea of what's going on. And so this is geared to, one, catch all of us up with what's going on, but at the same time, make it evidently clear what is actually happening and explain it from a place where people who aren't necessarily paying a ton of attention can also get a full grasp of what's going on. So if you're a grandparent, parent, you have a kid, you have a teenager who isn't really sure what's going on, send this to them. This is going to hopefully be a good recap of how we got to where we are and why they're seeing Afghanistan craziness in their Instagram feed. So just to really set the table really quick, we've been in Afghanistan for 20 years. We spent $2 trillion there. 2,448 servicemen as of April have been killed in Afghanistan. 3,800 U.S. contractors have been killed. Allied service members, so NATO members, 1,100 of them have been killed. 444 aid workers, and 72 journalists. So a lot of things happening in Afghanistan for the last several years, not a ton to show for it. Want to get to a timeline of how this stuff all happened. So keep in mind, too, if you have any thoughts, throw them in the comment section. We'll get to some of those later on. But want to go through through a timeline. This is from Reuters. April 14th, President Joe Biden announces that U.S. troops will withdraw from Afghanistan starting May 1st and ending September 11th, which was a weird thing to begin with. A lot of us were kind of like, yo, that's also a day that they recognize as something terrible happened. In our eyes, something terrible happened. In their eyes, something great happened. So we're going to allow them to celebrate by pulling out on September 11th. A lot of weird, nobody knows why he picked that date, but they backed off of it. So it's, seemingly irrelevant now. May 4th, Taliban fighters launched a major offensive on Afghan forces in the southern Helmand province. They also attacked at least 6 other provinces. So less than a month after Joe Biden says we're leaving, the Taliban are starting to get emboldened. May 11th, so less than a week late after that, the Taliban captured Nurk district just outside the capital of Kabul as violence intensifies across the country. June 7th, so we're about a month away from the initial Taliban uprising. Senior government officials say that more than 150 Afghan soldiers are killed in 24 hours as the fighting worsens. So 150 Afghan soldiers are killed in 24 hours on June 7th, about a month after the first Afghani Taliban conflict, physical conflict that led to fighting in the Helmand province. June 22nd, Taliban fighters launch a series of attacks in the northern part of the country, far from their traditional strongholds in the south. So, if you're not familiar with Afghanistan geography, the Taliban have a stronghold in the south. The Helmand province has been a big issue for us for a long time. Books have already been written about the Taliban's hold over the Helmand province and what we can and can't and haven't been able to do there. But June 22nd, they start going into the north. The UN envoy for Afghanistan says at that point, they'd taken more than 50 of the 370 districts. July 2nd, American troops quietly pull out of their main base in Afghanistan, Bagram Air Base, which is an hour's drive from Kabul. It effectively ends U.S. involvement in the war. So if you remember, on July 2nd, we just bounced. We just left. That's kind of it. Whether or not you think that's a good idea remains to be seen. There's 2 sides of that issue. One side is, you didn't tell the Afghani troops that you were leaving and couldn't coordinate with them. We just left. That seems not only ill-advised, but just not a very neighborly thing to do, especially when lives are at risk. On the other hand, who can you trust? Can you trust anybody in the Iraqi military forces to leak things to the Taliban? Therefore, all the U.S. plans to evacuate on July 2nd could have been completely open to the Taliban and could have been thwarted by whatever means possible if those plans got leaked. So both sides are pretty compelling, but nevertheless, July 2nd, 2 months after the first Taliban incident, the United States completely removes all of their personnel from the military base, Bagram Air Base. July 5th, the Taliban say they could present a written peace proposal to the Afghan government as soon as August. Nobody knows whether or not that was a genuine gesture or just posturing to maneuver around to be in position to take the entire country. It very well could be that the Taliban thought that they might need to have some sort of peace deal with the Afghan government, but then after a couple weeks of walking into cities and being able to completely take them over without really any fight whatsoever, they very well could have said, never mind. We're just going to do this and see how far we can get. Not to mention, before we go on, every time the Taliban went into the city, into a new city or a new capital of a province, they would let all of the people out of the jails, which included a lot of Taliban fighters. So they almost doubled in size everywhere they went. And it very could possibly be that they said, we're just getting stronger and stronger as we go. We're going to push this thing as far as we can. And inevitably, that ended up being what happened. July 21st, Taliban insurgents control about half of the country's districts. So in about a month, they went from 50 out of 360 to half of the country's districts, according to a senior U.S. general. July 25th, United States vows to continue the support for Afghan troops in the coming weeks with intensified airstrikes to help counter the Taliban attacks July 26th. The United Nations says that nearly 2,400 Afghan civilians were killed or wounded in May and June of this year, escalating all of the violence. These are the highest numbers for those months since 2009. So not good. And this is not that. This is 3 weeks ago. August 6th, the south of the country becomes the first provincial capital to fall to the Taliban in years. More of them to follow in the ensuing days, including the prize city of Kunduz in the north. Not sure how to pronounce that, but again, quickly they're moving through. August 14th, 4 more provincial capitals fall in a day, including Kandahar, the country's second city and spiritual home of the Taliban. So they're moving very fast, and this is last week. We're already backed up to last week. So we're 3 months from the United States announcing that we're leaving and the Taliban initiating their first offensive strike. And 3 months in, leads us to right about now, August 14th, Taliban take major northern cities of, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, with little resistance. They're just walking into these cities constantly. Now they're about 40 miles south of Kabul. The U.S. sends more troops to help evacuate its civilians from Kabul, as Afghan president says that they will be consulting with local officials and international partners to figure out the next steps. August 15th, the Taliban take key, so this is yesterday, take key eastern city of Jalalabad without a fight, effectively surrounding the city of Kabul. And then again yesterday, the Taliban insurgents enter Kabul. Now, when we say enter, they just strolled right in with virtually no opposition really anywhere. And we'll play a couple clips that kind of accentuate that and show you how that looked. Taliban insurgents enter Kabul, the Interior Ministry official says, as the United States evacuates diplomats from the embassy by helicopter. So we've got a couple clips that we want to play just to kind of set the scene for what this was like. This first clip is a jail in Kabul. You'll be able to see... I'll take the audio off, but this is a bunch of former prisoners in Kabul being released from the prison by the Taliban. And it goes without saying that there are probably lots of people in this group who were Taliban fighters, who were arrested in Kabul and held in Kabul, and now they're free and to join the Taliban army. Here's another video from the New York Times. I'm sure you've seen this one so far. Here's a C-16. People are running alongside it, and you'll see in a quick second, if you look, there's people climbing onto the wings of this thing, trying to hold on and get out of town. This is right outside the airport. You hear a lot of gunfire. People are sprinting across. It's just utter, complete chaos, and it's horrible to see. Honestly, it's not. Nobody's enjoying the fact that this is happening. Whether or not you wanted the Biden administration to succeed, nobody wanted to see this. To move into the idea of leaving Afghanistan, the Biden administration, same as the Trump administration, same as the Obama administration, ran on the idea of getting out of Afghanistan. This is not new. Trump wanted to do it earlier. The military-industrial complex talked him out of it. Obama wanted to do it. Everybody was virtually in agreement. So the idea that people are on the right, I've seen this in a lot of left-wing media so far today, saying that, oh, well, we shouldn't have gone. Nobody's saying that. Everybody who I've talked to, and maybe you disagree. If you disagree, leave a comment in the comment section. We'll try to address it. Everybody I've talked to, we've all been in agreement. The problem is not, should we leave Afghanistan? The problem that we all have is how he did it. The idea that there was any sort of plan is seemingly, I can't see it. And if there was any sort of plan, it sure wasn't executed very well. The analogy that I've been using is like it's ordering a pizza. Everybody has agreed to order a pizza, except for the person that ordered it decided to order it with a bunch of terrible toppings like pineapple on the pizza. And while we all agreed we should get pizza, not like that, not like this. Everybody was in agreement that we should leave Afghanistan, or at least severely limit our involvement over in Afghanistan. But when it comes to actually pulling out, what in the world? Nobody wanted to do it like this. The problem that we all have now is not just the administration. There's so many facets of how this was done. Again, while we personally don't blame the idea, the execution of the idea was awful. And that's not something that Joe Biden can lay at the feet of Donald Trump, but we'll get into that in a second. Like we said, there's a press conference that Joe Biden did at the beginning of today that we'll get into. The Biden administration last week was pressed and answered a question like this. We'll play this really quick snippet from a press conference last week with Joe Biden responding to the idea that the Taliban might be able to take over quicker than we all had thought.
Multiple cities in Afghanistan have fallen to the Taliban. There's irrefutable evidence that a vast majority of those Afghan forces cannot hold ground there. Has your current plan to withdraw U.S. troops changed at all?
No. Look, we spent over $1 trillion over 20 years. We trained and equipped with modern equipment over 300,000 Afghan forces. And Afghan leaders have to come together. We lost death and injury, thousands of American personnel. They've got to fight for themselves.
So here's the thing. Nobody at this point now believes that he was being genuine in that interview, because we at this point know that there's no way they didn't see this coming. Richard Engel was on MSNBC. He's been reporting for foreign policy stories for the last several years. Very solid guy. Don't always agree with him. And I pulled a clip from MSNBC specifically because I wanted to show that everybody is against what's going on right now, including a bunch of your liberal media outlets. So this is Richard Engel from MSNBC talking about, kind of refuting the idea that we should have all seen this coming. Well, I'll let Richard Engel explain it. Here we go.
The surprise here is not that it is happening as much as how fast it is happening. Would you agree with that?
No. Everyone keeps saying that. I've been listening all day. Oh, my God, we're shocked at how fast. I'm not shocked at all. Last time I was here, I was looking at the calendar and figuring out, because now with COVID and travel, when you're going to have to come back and how long you have to isolate. COVID makes you have to plan ahead a little bit on traveling. And I thought Kabul was going to fall right around now. That was just a gut instinct. And I think lots of people that I spoke to believe that. Last time I was here, I spoke to Afghan government officials, to Afghan military officials. It was well known that the security services were collapsing a month, 2 months ago, 3 months ago. So this feigned surprise that, or maybe it's genuine surprise, but if it is, I don't understand what it's based on. It was quite clear that it was going to come to this when you started to see the Taliban take territory without having to fight months ago.
So this is Richard Engel on MSNBC basically saying that there was no reason that the Biden administration or any of the military personnel that was making decisions on how to leave Afghanistan should be surprised. What he's saying is that this is completely predictable on so many different levels. And the fact that if they were genuinely surprised, that's a big problem in and of itself. Axios, Mike Allen, in an article titled Biden's Stain, says, rarely has an American president's predictions been so wrong, so fast, so convincingly as President Biden on Afghanistan. Usually, military operations and diplomacy are long, the outcomes foggy. Not here. It's seeming that there's a lot of media outlets thinking the Biden administration was completely unprepared. Anthony Blinken, the Secretary of State, said that we've spent $85 billion to train Afghan soldiers as well as pay their salaries. They lost in a week. Unbelievably underwhelming when it comes to how much money we spent. So we want to get to the Joe Biden press conference that he had surrounding everything that happened over the weekend. Because remember, he was on vacation the whole time. The White House, we didn't hear a peep from them. Jen Psaki, I think, is still on vacation. Over the entire weekend, we had the biggest, most embarrassing global story happen this weekend, and the White House didn't answer the phone. Didn't say anything, didn't come and give a press conference, didn't take any questions, none of that. Which is why people are upset on both sides of it. Whether or not you agree with Joe Biden or don't, the White House shouldn't have been this silent, especially given the circumstances of the biggest global embarrassment of the United States in the last 50 years. And with that, we've got to understand, how does that make us look on the world stage? We're currently in a fight with China, right? Over everything. China is trying to garner allies just like we are constantly every single day. And what I mean by that is, if there's any particular country, China's going to try and curry favor with them just as much as we are. And we are in a constant head-to-head battle with China right now for the allegiance of those countries. And what does something like this do to those negotiations, right? If, let's just say, some Southeast Asian country, China is trying to curry them to their side, we're trying to get them over to our side. China says, well, did you see the United States in Afghanistan? They say they're going to help you. They might not. They might help you for a little while, but then they're going to just leave in the middle of the night like they did on July 2nd, not say a word. You're going to be screwed. How does that make us look to them, especially when the other side of the aisle is China? And that's our biggest threat militarily. Doesn't make us look good. Not to mention, Xi Jinping is also watching U.S. media. The CCP isn't dumb. They're wrong about everything in the way life works and the way human culture works. They're wrong, but they're not stupid. Xi Jinping and the Chinese Communist Party are watching and watched throughout the entire weekend the disaster that came out of the United States' exit from Afghanistan, the complete takeover of Kabul by the Taliban, and the total and utter inaction by the White House. Look, I don't want to be like a doomsday seeker, but what happens if China invades Taiwan tomorrow? What do we do? I don't know. And it's less clear after the entire weekend that we just had. I don't know what we do. And it's worrisome. And China knows that, and all of these other countries know that. They know that the U.S. might screw you over in the middle of the night. Yeah, we didn't have any business being there for as long as we did. And we really didn't accomplish much outside of making sure there were no terrorist attacks on American soil from your Middle East regimes. Yeah, that, I guess, is a win if you want to look at it that way. But at the same time, at what cost? We stayed there for way too long, and everybody pretty much agrees. And when we pull out of it, other countries that, again, are deciding between us and China are looking in that and going, I don't want them to occupy us and be our allies and one day decide we're gone. That's not gonna be good for us. So how this plays on the world stage is extremely important. And it's not a good thing that our White House was completely radio silent throughout the entire weekend. Really quick before we're going to get to the Joe Biden press conference, but I want to show you a couple different videos of what is going on in the at the airport in Kabul. This is from a friend of mine, actually, we'll play this video coming up from YouTube. So here it is. There's no audio on it. So if you're just listening, there's a big plane and people are running towards the plane. They're climbing onto the U.S. Air Force C-17 or C-16, I believe. And this is just horrible. You see people falling off of the airplane as they were holding on for dear life, trying to get into Istanbul, desperately seeking some sort of refuge somewhere else. Like, nobody wants to see this. This is these are people running through the air, through the airport space after hearing gunshots ringing out. All of these people are desperately trying to get out. Thankfully, some of this is blurred, so we can't really see much going on there. This is more people standing around in the airport trying to figure out, can they get out on the plane? Here's people cramming on to the terminal section of the plane, and people just have no idea what to do. And I would probably do the same thing, honestly. I try to figure out how to smuggle my family into the luggage section of one of these big U.S. Air Force planes, because at least, look at this. This is unreal. Helicopters, planes trying to land. It is utter chaos over there. And we're trying to figure out, was there a plan at all to this? Or is this just how they expected it to go? Which is unbelievable. So that's what we're irritated about. Regardless of, whether or not you want to leave, you thought it was a good idea to leave, our is not good at all. We're going to talk about some of the political fallout, and it's not. We're also going to play some of the clips from over the weekend. A lot of likening to what's going on now, happening in what happened in Vietnam 50 years ago. A couple really interesting clips talking about that, and then the Biden press conference that we've broken down into some pretty solid clips and have some commentary on that. But first, I have to tell you about capitalist propaganda. The best way to tell your friends that their socialist ideas totally suck. Capitalist propaganda is the best way to spread capitalist propaganda, which is something that apparently we need to do. I'm wearing my favorite capitalist propaganda t-shirt as we speak, and it's great. Capitalism. Tell your friends. Use your iPhone to tweet about how much you hate me, which is hilarious. There's also some other funny shirts. Capitalism rocks. You're welcome. Love capitalism. Bunch of cool designs. But anyways, I got to do the ads. Sorry about it. Head on over to Capitalist Propaganda. Get your capitalism t-shirts. Promote capitalist propaganda. Tell your friends that the socialist ideas totally suck with capitalist propaganda gear. Speaking of capitalism, it would have been great if Afghanistan had a little bit more of it, as well as Vietnam. Want to play a really quick clip from this weekend on ABC This Week with Secretary of State Anthony Blinken when the host was asking him about Saigon. Listen into this. You may have heard this comparison already, but this is Anthony Blinken's response to that comparison.
Respectfully, not much about what we're seeing seems too orderly or standard operating procedure. I just last month, President Biden said that under no circumstance, and that was his word, those were his words, under no circumstance would the U.S. personnel, embassy personnel, be airlifted out of Kabul in a replay of the scenes that we saw in Saigon in 1975. So isn't that exactly what we're seeing now? I mean, even the images are evocative of what happened in Vietnam.
Let's take a step back. This is manifestly not Saigon. The fact of the matter is this. We went to Afghanistan 20 years ago with one mission in mind, and that was to deal with the people who attacked us on 9/11. And that mission has been successful. We brought bin Laden to justice a decade ago. Al-Qaeda, the group that attacked us, has been vastly diminished. Its capacity to attack us again from Afghanistan has been, right now, does not exist. And we're going to make sure that we keep in place in the region the capacity, the forces necessary to see any reemergence of a terrorist threat. and to be able to deal with it. So in terms of what we set out to do in Afghanistan, we've done it. And now, all along, the president had a hard decision to make. And that decision was what to do with the remaining forces that we inherited when we came to office that were in Afghanistan, with a deadline established by the previous administration to get them out.
Here it is. All right. So I want to hit on that really quick because this is a theme that's been consistent with everybody talking from the White House's or the administration's perspective. They're continuing to blame the former administration. Now, we'll get into more of that in a little bit. I just want to let you know you can feel free to leave your comments about what you think about that. Any commentary goes in the comment section. We have them all right here. We can read them. If any of them are interesting, we'll react to them live. But make sure you know that you can leave comments and let us know what you're thinking regarding blaming the former administration, which is exactly what Antony Blinken just did right there, which is just insane to me. One quick thing to note: Mike Lyons was former CBS military analyst. Said on a radio program this morning that we are leaving Afghanistan at the Taliban's pleasure. All of the people that we failed to get out before today are now getting out because the Taliban is allowing it. That's the position we've been put in. There's several reports about our military forces brokering a deal with the Taliban, meaning that we're paying them to let us leave because we didn't do it beforehand. How insane is that? But again, we're asking the Taliban politely, can we please leave? And paying them for the honor of doing it because we were unprepared going in and didn't get our people out in time, which is a major failure on the administration's standpoint. One other thing to note, the Taliban probably not interested in bringing down the U.S. like Al-Qaeda is. Al-Qaeda, if this was Al-Qaeda, they wouldn't be happening. They'd be shooting down all the planes as best they could that they could get away with without getting hit with retaliatory air force. But anyways, let's get into the Biden press conference. If you didn't watch it live, it wasn't all of that enthusiastic. It was a classic politician trying to spin himself out of a bad situation. There's a lot of speculation of why hasn't Biden said anything over the entire weekend? Why didn't he say a single thing? Well, it was ridiculous that he didn't, but at the same time, in his defense, what was he going to say? The only thing he could say was, yeah, we screwed that up, which he did. So, while I think it's crazy that they didn't say anything, I understand what they're getting at. The only thing they could say was bad news. So with the press conference, Biden spent the first 10 minutes of the press conference defending his position to leave Afghanistan. And here's the thing that I thought was important about that. Nobody disagrees with you. The polling for the last decade has showed that we should get out of Afghanistan. Everybody agrees. It's not a party thing. It's not a partisan thing. It's not like Republicans are overwhelmingly saying, we need to stay. Now, obviously, your Liz Cheneys and your Lindsey Grahams who want to be in every country at all the time, always. Obviously, they're saying, yeah, we shouldn't leave. But they've been saying that for forever. The majority of us have all been in agreement, consistent agreement that we should get out. So Joe Biden defending the idea of getting out of Afghanistan he's arguing against a straw man. Nobody is arguing that we should stay relative to the population. Nobody's saying, oh yeah, we should have stayed. And here he is defending the fact that he wanted to leave. But everybody already agrees that's not why we're mad, dude. The reason we're mad is how we left. They completely screwed up the entire process of leaving the country that we all agreed we should leave to begin with. That's why we're mad, dude. And then also, the first, let me see if I get these clips in order correctly, but we'll talk about them. He also then went on to continually blame the Trump administration. We'll see if this is the right clip.
When I came into office, I inherited a deal that President Trump negotiated with the
Inherited a deal.
Taliban. Under his agreement, U.S. forces would be out of Afghanistan by May 1, 2021, just a little over 3 months after I took office.
So here's the problem with that. Joe Biden is basically saying, well, I inherited this issue, and I inherited this deadline from the previous administration. Now, that argument might hold water, except when the Biden administration came into office in January, they reversed a bunch of stuff. They did a full 180 on a bunch of stuff. I don't know if you know, but gas prices are insanely high. Why is that? Well, in part, it's because the Keystone XL pipeline the permit was pulled by the federal government. Now, not only is it more expensive to get Canadian oil to the refineries in Texas, it's less eco-friendly. He just did a full 180. The border situation is another good one. Joe Biden just decided to completely change course, do a 180 reverse, and spin the opposite direction on how he's handling the border. So, when you say that the previous administration was taking these steps and we had to follow them, no, you didn't. You did not. You didn't do it for anything else. You went completely the opposite direction on literally all of the things that you could have. So don't give me this crap that, well, the previous administration. No. That would have held water if you would kept all of the previous stuff. Now, the polling shows that a lot of people wanted to keep all the border policy. Polling shows that the majority of Americans want to keep the border policy. So, had he not changed the entirety of the border policy, canceled all of the rolled back regulations for businesses in the United States, had he not gone completely the opposite direction on in a bunch of different areas when he took office, maybe this argument holds a little bit of water. But the fact that he did 180 degrees on a bunch of different issues? No, you don't get to say that, well, the previous administration. No, you are the administration at this point. Sorry. That's just the way it is. Let's listen on.
U.S. forces had already drawn down during the Trump administration from roughly 15,500 American forces to 2,500 troops in country. And the Taliban was at its strongest militarily since 2001. The choice I had to make as your president was either to follow through on that agreement or be prepared to go back to fighting the Taliban in the middle of the spring fighting season.
So, no, those weren't your only two choices. You could have delayed the deadline and not gone with the previous administration's plan and taken over like you did with everything else. Or you could have revised the plan. That is also an option. So let's not say that the only options were to stick with the deadline or continue fighting. No, not even close. Not even close. Joe, here's some more of that press conference. More interesting stuff coming out of the president.
So I'm left again to ask of those who argue that we should stay. How many more generations of America's daughters and sons would you have me send to fight Afghanistan's civil war?
This is insane. We'll play more of that in a little bit, but this is insane. How he look. Does he think he's being genuine? I don't know. And this isn't, again, not a partisan thing. This is just an argument thing. Nobody is arguing that we should stay. Literally nobody. There's two people that I know of in Congress that are arguing for that, but literally everybody else agrees. The polling shows that everybody agrees that we should get out. So when he's saying, how many more people should we have to lose? Nobody wants to lose any troops, but at the same time, that's not the argument that any of us are making. Nothing. No. Let's play it again really quick.
So I'm left again to ask of those who argue that we should stay.
Nobody is arguing that.
How many more generations of America's daughters and sons would you have me send to fight Afghanistan's civil war?
Nobody is saying that, Joe. Literally nobody. Nobody is asking for you to stay. What we're saying and what we're mad about is how you got out. It wasn't planned well, it wasn't executed well, and it's not going well now. That's why we're mad. Nobody's mad. Nobody's arguing to stay. Nobody's arguing that we needed to stay and continue whatever war we were in. Nobody's arguing that, Joe. I'm getting sweaty. This is hot. I'm irritated. I try to stay at least as much more levity with this show. We try to joke around with stuff, but this is infuriating, man. So sorry if you generally tune in because you think the show is funny. Not one of those days. Let's listen to Joe Biden's talk a little bit more about from this press conference.
I know there are concerns about why we did not begin evacuating Afghan civilians sooner.
You think?
Part of the answer is some of the Afghans did not want to leave earlier, still hopeful for their country. And part of it because the Afghan government and its supporters discouraged us from organizing a mass exodus to avoid triggering, as they said, a crisis of confidence.
So what Joe Biden is saying, the only reason we didn't evacuate them soon enough is because they didn't want to leave. You have to give people the option, Joe. You got to. If people look, unfortunately, and this is terribly sad, we're going to end up leaving United States allies in Afghanistan who helped translate for our troops, who passed along information to our troops and helped our troops avoid deadly situations. Those people risked their lives and their families' lives to help us. And we're going to leave them because we didn't have a plan to get them out. It just makes me so mad.
American troops are performing this mission as professionally and as effectively as they always do. But it is not without risks. As we carry out this departure, we have made it clear to the Taliban, if they attack our personnel or disrupt our operation, the U.S. presence will be swift and the response will be swift and forceful.
Okay, that's good. Good, glad you said that, but we didn't have to get here. It's like you created a problem. You don't get credit for fixing it. I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that we're United States, if we're attacked by the Taliban in Kabul, are going to be forceful in our reaction to it. I'm glad he said that. But like I said, you don't get credit for fixing a problem that you created.
We will defend our people with devastating force if necessary.
Great.
Our current military mission will be short in time, limited in scope, and focused in its objectives. Get our people and our allies as quickly as possible. And once we have completed this mission, we will conclude our military withdrawal.
So why wasn't that the plan to begin with? Why is it that in April, like we were talking about the timeline earlier, in April, when Joe Biden made the decision to continue to get out of Afghanistan, why was getting these people out not a part of the original plan? And if it was, why didn't someone execute that plan? Really, what are we talking about here? We're talking about allies of the United States, people that we vetted, people that helped our troops avoid impossible situations and save lives, people that risked their own life and their families' lives to help us. We didn't get them out. That's the most infuriating thing I can think of. We can't do anything now. Our bureaucracy is too big and too slow to do anything effective. That's what I'm gathering from this. We can't put together a legitimate plan. We can't execute that plan. And because of that, people that helped us for the last 20 years are going to die, and their families. because we can't put together a comprehensive plan and execute that plan as the greatest superpower on the planet. We can't do that. He finishes up.
Will end America's longest war after 20 long years of bloodshed. The events we're seeing now are sadly proof that no amount of military force would ever deliver a stable, united, secure Afghanistan, as known in history as the graveyard of empires.
So here's the other thing. Again, he's continuing to defend the idea that we should have gotten out. Well, yeah, Joe, we all agree. No, you're arguing a point that nobody's arguing against. What we're mad about is how we're getting out. It's been terrible. It's been awful. So, there's a couple different very brave journalists that are still in Kabul. Clarissa Ward of CNN is one. She's getting a lot of heat, I think, unfairly for, I'm sure you've heard this line or seen it on the internet, that the Taliban is shouting death to America and they seem happy. I don't like her getting hit for that. I think it's out of context. And I want to show you this clip so that we can bring that back into context. She is one brave lady. I wouldn't be doing what she's doing. Actually, before we do that, I want to show you really quickly a photo from Clarissa Ward several days ago versus today. Let me see if I get this up on the screen. Oh, this is terrible. This is people falling out of the sky, out of these planes. Sorry, that wasn't what I was trying to show you. Let me grab this this actual clip. This is again Clarissa Ward, what she looked like several days before now versus today. This is what she looked like. I want to say days ago. Yeah, no, yesterday. Yesterday, this is what she looked like in Kabul, reporting on all of the things happening over there. And here's what she looks like today. So that's just the reality of the situation. You want to talk about gender equality? Well, sure isn't about to be happening in Afghanistan. Again, it's what she looked like yesterday, what she looked like today. It's kind of crazy. Here's this clip from CNN that I want to play for you of Clarissa Ward.
Look at what we saw. As soon as we leave our compound, it's clear who is now in charge. Taliban fighters have flooded the capital. Smiling and victorious, they took this city of 6 million people in a matter of hours.
They do
barely
look happy.
Firing a shot.
This is a sight I honestly thought I would never see. Scores of Taliban fighters, and just behind us, the U.S. Embassy compound.
Some carry American weapons. They tell us they're here to maintain law and order. Everything is under control. Everything will be fine, the commander says. Nobody should worry.
What's your message to America right now?
America already spent enough time in Afghanistan. They need to leave, he tells us. They already lost lots of lives and lots of money. People come up to them to pose for photographs.
Brave lady.
They're just chanting death to America, but they seem friendly at the same time. It's utterly bizarre.
So, okay, really quick, this clip is going to get played all over the place in your conservative media outlets. She said they are chanting death to America, but they seem friendly. It's bizarre. That's not fair. It's not fair to, this is not, people hit CNN for when they were talking about mostly peaceful protests, showing the burning building in the background. That was ridiculous. This is not that. I agree with her. She's what she said is accurate. From what I'm looking at on the video, yeah, they are chanting death to America, but at the same time, they look happy because nobody's opposing them. So when you see that on your conservative media, that's not a fair argument to make. That's not a good comparison to the riots in Minneapolis, where the Chiron said mostly peaceful protests. But it's nuts. It is nuts what is going on there. We'll play a little bit more of it.
At the presidential palace, the Taliban are now guarding the gate. They say they're here to fill the vacuum left when the government fled. But the welcoming spirit only extends so far, and my presence soon creates tension.
It's because of you.
They've just told me to stand to the side because I'm a woman.
Outside, ordinary Afghans.
So, yeah, it's going to be rough. It's just going to be rough for the people of Afghanistan. Yeah, go on. I don't know what we do about it. It seemed like it was going to be inevitable, which, like I've said a million times, everybody agreed that we should get out of Afghanistan. But this is just not how you do it. We needed to get the people that helped us out, and we didn't. So, disheartening. It's disappointing. In that press conference, Joe Biden also outlined some plans. We're going to deploy 6,000 troops to Afghanistan to help evacuate Americans and Afghans who have helped us. Said we struck a deal with the Taliban to not shoot down our planes for the next couple weeks. I'm sure we're paying them to do that. But yeah, ridiculous. This is ridiculous. The Atlantic, not a conservative-leaning outlet, had an article, Biden's betrayal of Afghans will live in infamy. Because there was no plan to get Afghans who would help the United States out of Afghanistan, and they're going to end up dying there because of it. Ryan Crocker is a former Obama ambassador to Afghanistan. Said a couple really interesting things. Again, this is again hitting Joe Biden because he's defending a position that nobody's arguing against, and even his own side is telling him this is not the way that this should be going. Ryan Crocker, Obama ambassador to Afghanistan, said, I think it's already an indelible stain on his presidency. He said that a couple days ago. So Obama's ambassador to Afghanistan thinks this is an indelible stain on the Biden presidency. Now, I would imagine that Ryan Crocker, ambassador to Afghanistan under Obama, has had conversations with Joe Biden. I'm sure they stayed up late at night talking about policy decisions that could help the situation in Afghanistan. And now he's here saying a couple days ago that this is an indelible stain on the Joe Biden presidency. This one is the quote that we're going to be talking about for a while. Ryan Crocker, the Obama ambassador to Afghanistan, said, I'm left with some grave questions in my mind about Biden's ability to lead our nation as commander-in-chief. This is coming from the Obama-era ambassador to Afghanistan about Joe Biden. I'm going to read that again. I'm left with some grave questions in my mind about Biden's ability to lead our nation as commander-in-chief. Guy that knows Joe Biden, guy that has worked with Joe Biden, guy that served under Obama as an ambassador to Afghanistan, saying that he doesn't know if Joe Biden can handle being the commander-in-chief of the United States of America. Like, we're not talking about Tucker Carlson. We're not talking about Sean Hannity or Jesse Waters or Tommy Lahren or any of the people on Fox News or any of your right-wing conservative pundits. We're not talking about Ben Shapiro. No, this is an Obama-era ambassador to Afghanistan, appointed by Obama, working relationship with then Vice President Joe Biden, saying, I'm left with some grave questions in my mind about Biden's ability to lead our nation as commander-in-chief. Unreal. Anyways, it's all the new information we have. We'll be back tomorrow with some more stuff, probably more unfolding as it comes out of Afghanistan. If you haven't already, check out my show, Quality Control, on Daily Caller. The timing was a little bit weird this week. Andrew Cuomo, remember that huge story last week? Governor of New York resigned amid sexual allegations. Oh, we did a deep dive into Andrew Cuomo's career and what transpired that led him to resign, including all of the other things that he should have resigned for. That video came out today. Again, interesting timing. Everybody's talking about Afghanistan, but we do still need to make sure we make fun of Andrew Cuomo to the fullest extent that we can, because he's also worth it. So if you haven't, go check out my show, Quality Control, over on Daily Caller. If you're not familiar with Daily Caller, you should check it out. A news organization founded by Tucker Carlson back in 2010. Prides ourselves on being the journalists that love America. Love the show over there. Love what everybody's doing over there with the Daily Caller and Quality Control. So last time, if you haven't, check out Quality Control and Daily Caller with yours truly. At the same time, we'll be back here tomorrow with some more fun, new information. I say fun sarcastically, but we're back here tomorrow with some more new information on Afghanistan, as well as maybe some other stories going on around the country, around the globe. Who knows? Maybe something else crazy will happen, but we'll be back here tomorrow with any new information that we can get. So thanks so much for tuning in to the Jobob Show. We will see you next time. God bless America. Peace out, Girl Scout. I really don't like having to do very serious episodes like this, so, do better, Joe Biden. God bless America. We'll see you tomorrow.